All right, whatever you think of Jimmy Kimmel, he has a kinder, nicer way of arguing for health care without ever once cursing or making controversial remarks like another late-night show against whom he competes. But both are pointing to the GOP as bad and using bad math, bad manners, bad feelings, bad everything in dealing with this health care rework. The Daily Caller editor, Katie Frates, joining us right now. Katie, I just think that Kimmel's approach might be the wiser, sounder approach and might resonate more ever since the story of his son. Now, whether you agree or disagree or want to wear that on heartstrings and all, his approach to this is to say, you Republicans go slow here, right?
Well, right, and I think you're correct. And his approach was definitely better than Steve Colbert's. Of course, screaming on TV is not a way to get anyone to listen to you, although I don't think Kimmel's approach is going to get many people to listen to him either, even though the story of his son is heart-wrenching. I'm happy to hear that he's doing better, but I've said this before. Everything Democrats are worried is going to happen when Obamacare is repealed has already happened. The co-ops have failed. 20 out of 24 have failed. The exchanges have failed. Blue Cross Blue Shield just requested a 60% premium increase in Maryland. Millions of dollars in federal loans that went to these exchanges are now saddled on taxpayers because they have failed. And almost 1 million people have lost their health care coverage because of Obamacare. So these problems are already here. Republicans are just trying to fix something
Katie,
that's already happening.
The numbers might support what you're saying. The data is what it is. I always tell people whether you're on the left or right on this subject, and I see this up close, myself in dealing with the medical community. It is not sustainable, the Affordable Care Act, as it is. So you could talk all you want about, wanting to protect health care for all, but it is not sustainable. We can't pay for this the way it's going. So something has to be done. Republicans have never argued that because it seems like they're more intent on political payback. Now, I don't think that's altogether true of all Republicans, but I'm wondering how they right that ship and the Kimmel message that resonated with a lot of folks. A lot of folks, that message, that monologue of his went viral. Millions saw that, and they seem to think that Republicans are intent on ripping health care away from you and making your kids exposed. So how do or should Republicans respond?
Well, that's always how the argument goes, right?
Absolutely.
Anytime Republicans look at a fiscal problem and say that we cannot afford this, Democrats turn around and say they use the emotional appeal, they use the heart-wrenching story that puts logic aside in terms of emotional response. It always works.
Or to say that you're doing this to give the rich a tax cut. Now that's a prevailing view, but even if you substantially raise taxes in the upper income, it wouldn't pay full freight on this, and Medicare and Medicaid and all of that. Now, we know that. But again, the emotional argument wins out. Don't mess with this thing.
Well, and of course, the problem is, though, they're going to see, and as Trump said, it's going to implode. It's failing. Premiums are going up. So even though Obamacare is here, no one will be able to afford it. And the Republicans, unfortunately, are on the side of having to take the hard fiscal steps that no one else wants to take that are rather unpopular. But someone's going to have to fix this, whether it's the Republicans now or Democrats later on.
No, I agree with you, Kate, but I think they could use some Ross Perot-type charts. Now, I'm a lot older than you. I can remember that time when he would show what we're going into the red, but to explain it to people, because Americans are not stupid. If you just say, here's all the benefits we're providing. I remember when they were putting this up concocted, I should have gotten a condo in Washington, because when they were coming up, they were providing benefits to keep your kids on a policy much older. They were providing, cradle-to-grave coverage, coverage for all pre-existing conditions, all stuff most people, I think, like. But not a clear way, a sustainable way to pay for it. And I think that just has to be explained in a very rational way without looking heartless. I'm not sure it would always be portrayed that way, but they failed to do that. And I'm wondering if it's too late for them to explain that now.
Well, every time a big entitlement is given away, every time something like health care is turned into a right, this term of rights, everything is a right now. Once you give these to people, it's impossible to take them back. That is something that they believe they are entitled to and that they deserve. And the problem with explaining the costs at that point is that people just assume that government is this monolithic, huge entity that, they're going to say just print more money. And we can't do that. That's not how it works.
Yeah. All right. Wild stuff. Katie Frates, good seeing you.
Thanks.